Yes, I am. See, I can't get it downloaded from the computer here.
You know what? That's okay. We're going to go live in a few seconds. That's fine. Let's get started.
Sorry, folks.
Okay, good morning. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. We have a little crew here from SUNY Empire State College, and the title of our presentation today is Assessing Our Momentum, a case study analysis of Empire State College's process improvement system. I'm joined here today by my colleagues Robin Oliver, Julie Milner, and Lisa Johnson, and we're each going to introduce ourselves when we get to our slides. I am Cindy Bates. I am an associate professor of theater and film, and I'm also the department chair for arts and media at our college. And very happy to have you all with us this morning. So next slide, please. Lisa, will it move to the next slide?
You should be seeing it.
Okay, maybe it's a lag.
You see it now?
I don't. Does anybody else? Okay, just give us 1 second, folks.
Okay, I'm seeing it here.
Now it went. Perfect. Thank you. So good morning again. We are going to, let me just walk you through our agenda here. So we're going to talk to you a little bit about what the Process Improvement Committee is at SUNY Empire. We'll talk a little bit about our process, what we do as a committee. We are aligned with our institutional improvement strategies, so we'll talk a little bit about that. We're going to provide some case studies of actual tickets or situations that we have worked through. And then after that, we're going to do a live demonstration of the process for you to give you a sense of how we work through things. And then we'll talk about our lessons learned, of which there have been many, and our goals for the future. Next slide, please. So the Process Improvement Committee, we are a college-wide committee. We came out of our climate committee. So our climate committee was charged a number of years ago with looking at the overall climate of the school in terms of how people were satisfied or dissatisfied with their work environment, with the direction of the college, so on and so forth. We had a pretty low climate survey in 2018, which had really come about from a lot of different changes that had happened in the college over a very short period of time. And people were really quite tired about change fatigue and those kinds of things. And so one of our members of the climate committee had previously worked in business field, and their company had created this process improvement committee, if you will, or process improvement process. And she said, what if we thought about having that here? And so a team of people from around the college got together and started brainstorming what might it mean to have the ability to work through ideas for improving systems or different things that we do at the college. So the purpose of the committee is to provide an avenue for all college employees to submit suggestions for improvement, about concerns, or even just to provide feedback on college processes that impact them or the students. So we're really dedicated to looking at how we do what we do at the college. And I just want to give a shout out to our two colleagues who really led the charge on this back, really this whole thing developed during the pandemic. So it was quite the time. But John Lawless and Stephanie Thomas and Julie Shaw really were leaders in bringing this whole committee to fruition. So one of the things I just want to point out is that when people bring tickets to us, we as a committee don't decide whether or not that process or that ticket can be fulfilled. We discuss it and then we bring it to the appropriate people. So we really see ourselves as facilitators, and we really work in a collaborative team-based way. Next slide, please. So we basically have two sort of functions, and we've developed this over time. The committee has been going now we opened to the public in, I guess, June of 2020. So I guess we're hitting our 2-year anniversary. Anyway, so we have a whole section of what we do is addressing our tickets. Things come to us through a ticketing system. So ideas, suggestions, how can we improve the bookstore? How can we improve student access to records? So on and so forth. Things come to us through tickets. We identify the issue, we brainstorm and discuss it, we refer it out to the appropriate office, and then we always respond to the person who submitted the ticket. We try to keep them in the loop. So that's sort of one half of what we do as a committee. And then the other half really is what we've come to call business meetings. So we came out of the climate committee, as I mentioned. So we're always connecting back to the climate committee to see what else is going on in the college. How are we fitting in with those efforts? We are also reporting out to the college on the kinds of tickets that come into us and on the resolutions, however the ticket has been addressed, reporting that back out to the college. We have implemented satisfaction surveys for people who put in tickets to us. And so each of our business meetings, we review the satisfaction surveys and we talk about how we can improve our process. And then we're also working on developing a charter. And so we really wanted to have our scope and our process written down in something so that this committee, as people turn over, as people move on and off the committee, we have a solid document that helps us move along. Next slide, please. All right, and I think I'm going to turn this over to Julie.
Hi, my name is Julie Milner, and I'm from the Project Management Office here at SUNY Empire. I've been here about 2 years, and generally my role focuses on supporting the implementation of the new LMS and managing revenue-generating MOUs within the SUNY different entities. I've been with the college for 2 years, so I joined the committee during the pandemic. It was one of my first assignments. So, institutional priorities. A few years ago, we had our middle state campus evaluation, and some of the outputs of that were to establish priorities for the college to track and address as they go along. And so those are called the institutional priorities. And they were established by the college president and the cabinet. The term we use, we like acronyms. So ATIP is assessing and tracking institutional priorities, but just institutional priorities is the word we'll use here. And it's the model developed to measure and document the outcomes of college-wide initiatives undertaken to achieve the college's strategic priorities. So in our work to align with the institutional priorities started after last year's presentation with the Empire Cabinet. So they said, you're doing this work, let's align it, which is important. So the PIC approached this in two ways. One is that we incorporated the institutional priorities into our input form and quarterly reporting mechanism. So it's right up front and center. And then our categorization subcommittee is maintaining consistent communication and engagement with the ATIP form. So we're trying to measure, track, and follow the initiatives throughout the process. So many of the PIC tickets align with the objectives identified in the institutional priorities with a shared mutual interest in continuous improvement, like identification of barriers to initial enrollment, improving student experiences, and strengthening resources management. So we work towards the institutional priority to enhance internal communication, and that's inherent in the mission of the PIC. Thanks. And next slide, presenter, please. Or what to case one. Robin.
Thank you, Julie. Good morning, everyone. My name is Robin Oliver. I'm the administrative assistant to the dean for the School of Business at Empire State College. I have been with the college for 21 years now. I absolutely love what I do. And I'm going to introduce you to some case studies that we did. The screen that you're looking at now is since June of 2020 when we went live. We have had 108 ticket submissions. Oh, I'm seeing Julie Milner, but that's okay. 108 ticket submissions. We have 5 incomplete, and that is probably because either policy or our systems just couldn't do it at the time. It doesn't mean that we're not going to revisit those tickets probably in the future. Happy to report that we have closed 64 completed tickets. That means we have changed whatever the individual submitted the ticket for. And in progress, we have 39 as of right now. 39 meaning, like Cindy said, that we go through these tickets and we'll show you in a few minutes how we really go through a ticket. There are 15 members on the committee, which we'll introduce later. But in the meantime, before we jump to the first case study, what we want you to do is think of a ticket that you might submit if you had this at your institution. So next slide, please. Case study number 1, getting back to my ESC homepage. When submitting a ticket, a tech ticket, if students are having trouble with their account or anything technology, we submit tickets to our IT. So when submitting a tech ticket, we couldn't go back to the My ESC homepage. So what we had to do was close out and then go back in and re-log in. So the solution for this was we put a link to return back to the My ESC page when they submitted a ticket. Working with students and having them submit a ticket, and personally for me, I was working with a student. He was like, oh, I have to submit a ticket, but I can't go back to the homepage. And I said, well, we corrected that. And he was super excited. I was super excited because I said, if once we submit it, all you need to do is click on that My ESC and it goes back to the homepage. So he was super excited. I was super excited because it made the student's life a lot easier. Next slide, please.
Back to me. So being in the project management office, we are closely aligned with the IT department and OAA. So frequently conversations are happening around you. So you have a kind of a global sense of what's going on. And communicating with students, student emails is kind of a percolating conversation in various meetings. So I thought this would be an interesting case study to see how we dealt with a couple of issues, how they came to us and how they related to the campus overall. So this is a tale of 2 tickets. The first ticket came in with 3 questions. And for us, we could answer the questions or we could migrate to a process improvement situation. So and it's okay to format your PIC ticket as a question or multiple questions. The first one was, what information is given to students so that they can avoid having their ESC EDU emails getting tossed into their personal junk folders? This is probably something that's common across multiple campuses and other experiences. Basically, when you are an enrolled student at Empire, you get an Empire student email, and we like you to work out of that student email. We'd like you to check it regularly and make it one of your emails. But frequently, students want to use their own personal email. And so they would forward their campus email to their personal email, and it would get lost in their spam folder. So this is frustrating in a couple of ways, obviously. So what we decided is that your Empire emails will always be available from your Office 365 account. So it's a little bit of training and orientation to work out of Office 365. And then if you also use another application like Google or Firefox, you need to go into your spam folder and move an Empire email into your normal inbox to prove that it's not junk. So that was kind of the answer to the first of the questions. And then the second question is, why don't student email addresses come up when we type their name into the to field? So this would be a faculty person is trying to reach out to their students, and they're coming up with the name is now auto-completing for them. So there's a feature that says, we gave them a knowledge-based article, so a written service desk article that says turn on or turn off your autocomplete list name suggestions. So you could start with an L for Lisa or whatever, and it should complete the name for you or give you a list of names to choose from. So then we say, the third question was, do we really need to add each student to some kind of, oops, did I lose you? Somebody raise their hand if you can hear me now. Okay, sorry. Do we really need to add each student some kind of personal user email list? And we said, no, we can train you. Those students are available in your banner account. So they're associated with your classes and you can directly communicate with them that way. So we were able to answer all three questions, and it wasn't really a process change, but it was an information exchange. But a few things that we've done to make the student emails work better, just as a sidebar, is that we've made the Empire email account their default email, and then we're constantly reminding them and retraining them to check their spam folder and orient themselves more often to the Office 365 environment. So it turned into a process improvement based on changing some of the options. We assigned the ticket to the committee member, Stephanie Thomas, and we added Pam Enzer, who's our registrar, Catherine Watson, and Michelle Payne to the work notes. And we responded that a process improvement is in the works, but the short-term fix is to emphasize how to fix the problem. The second ticket, the second ticket is we worked on after the consultation with the ITS, and the information they provided was that there'll be a new email policy going into place where we will always be corresponding to the student's ESC email address, and they can track that it got sent. So we have a way to confirm that the message was sent. And based on the policy, they'll be able to forward their email to a personal account, but it will be at their own risk. So we're communicating the risk of using your personal email, and that we will not be forwarding emails for them. So they have to do it on their own end, and we'll be able to verify that the emails got to them on our servers. So we could confirm that the email was sent and that it was received by the student email address. Since the new email policy will be a couple of weeks closer to being finalized in the new year, they don't think a program solution will be worth it for the short period of time. So email student communication is important. So the extra thing is that an alternate enhancement is also being completed, and it will be to include a message that says check your spam or junk folders just in case on the begin page. The begin team is for students just coming into the college, and we responded directly back to the ticket submitter. So I think that talks about it all. So next slide, please.
Great. Thanks, Julie. So the third case study, the last case study we're going to share with you is about something we call learning contracts. So at SUNY Empire, we have something called a learning contract, which is very similar to a syllabus, but it has more information in it than a typical syllabus would have. And the idea of the learning contract really came out of the very early beginnings of the college when students worked one-on-one with faculty members in independent studies. And in doing an independent study was the primary way that students learned in the early days of the college. Now students still can do independent studies. They also do online courses, virtual study groups where there's some like Zoom or Teams meetings. There's residencies, there's all sorts of ways of studying. But anyway, the learning contract was really one of the foundational aspects of the college, because the learning contract basically spelled out the agreement between the faculty and the student about what the student was going to be studying and learning, what kinds of assignments they had developed together, how would the student be assessed over time, things to that effect. So the learning contract to us is really contains a lot of information about how a course is going to be run. And so as a faculty member, not only do I teach in my area of expertise, but I also advise, or we call it mentoring students. I mentor students across all different areas of the college. So I work obviously with theater and film students, but I also work with business students, science students, environmental students, etc. And part of what I'm doing is trying to help them figure out what courses they want to take and should take for their degrees. So the learning contract contains really important information for me to be able to advise my students, and for my students to be able to learn, okay, so here's the course description, here's the learning outcomes, but what's the nitty gritty of the course? Okay, is this course going to have me doing, weekly discussion boards, assignments every 2 weeks, every 3 days? Like, what am I going to be doing in this course? And for our students in particular, because we tend to work with students who are typically a little bit older. They're usually, I think our median age is around 30, 35. They typically have jobs and family to take care of. Many of them are in that sandwich situation where they're taking care of kids and parents at the same time. So their time is really at a premium. And we want to make sure that the courses that we help them choose are going to work successfully for them. For example, I have a student right now who is taking an accounting course this summer, and she's really good at accounting. And the accounting principles are not that difficult for her, but the course is requiring that she post discussion board posts 4 or 5 times a week during the work week, and there's no wiggle room on that. She's not allowed to post on weekends. It has to happen on these 4 or 5 days, and it's simply not working for her schedule. And had we had access to the learning contract for that course before she registered for it, we could have said, oh, okay, this is not the right section of accounting for you. We want to make sure that you're in a section of accounting where there's a little more flexibility in terms of discussion board posts, or maybe there's no discussion board posts and there's meetings with the faculty member instead. So anyway, before we moved into our current IT system in the college, all faculty had access to all the learning contracts around the college. So we were able to go in and say, okay, I see exactly what's going to happen in John's environmental studies course, and I can tell the student that, and the student knows exactly what they can expect. Currently, we don't have access to all those learning contracts. Only department chairs have access to them, and through sort of a back channel kind of way. And we really want to make sure that all faculty have access to all of the learning contracts, so we can all advise our students, as best as possible. So I brought this ticket. Actually, my colleague Kathy brought this ticket forward. I thought it was a terrific ticket because all the faculty have talked about wanting to have this. And so it turns out that the IT folks said that they absolutely think it's a great idea. They've put it into their pipeline of things to do. As you know, everybody is a little taxed these days with trying to change our LMS over to Brightspace, but it is in the IT pipeline to make these learning contracts accessible to all the faculty so we can better advise our students. So another example of an idea that came forth. It's kind of like, I was thinking about this last night. It's kind of like, if you remember the good old days of like the suggestion box that somebody puts in the lunchroom, you put in, a little like, here's your suggestion. That's kind of like what we're doing. We're like the virtual suggestion box. So you might want to think about it in that way. All right, next slide. So now we're going to talk to you a little bit about the process, and we're going to demonstrate for you how we go through a ticket process. So this little graphic here shows you from the very top, a ticket is submitted. Our team triages the ticket. We'll show you what that is. We discuss the ticket. We are a very discussion-heavy collaborative group as we discuss tickets. Then we loop in whatever appropriate offices or people need to be looped in. as I said earlier, we inform the person who submitted the ticket of the response or of any questions that we have. Then we close the ticket, and then we also inform the community. And I should say as we inform the community, we're also collecting feedback from that survey that I mentioned earlier that we send out. But we'd like to inform the community of the kinds of tickets that have come in, the kinds of changes that have happened as a result of this work. And it also spurs like new ticket ideas, right? So it takes a while for people to be like, what, really? I can make a suggestion and I can make a positive change at the college. Like, instead of banging your head against the wall, you actually get to do something and move your idea forward. So that's been one of the really positive aspects of this. So I think at this point, I'm going to take over sharing the screen, right, Lisa?
Yes.
Okay, let me do that. And give me 1 second. Oops. Okay, did that work? Let's see. Anything coming up yet?
No, not yet.
Okay, I clicked share screen. Yep, I've done that.
It's okay. We have plenty of time.
Do you want me to try to get into it?
Yeah, if you could. I mean, I'm clicking share. I click on the picture. Now I see all our pretty faces.
Okay, I'm going into the
It wouldn't be a slide deck, Victoria. It would be sharing my what do you call it? My desktop. Oh,
okay. Good. I have the screen up now. Let me see if I can't share the screen again. I might run into the same thing because I have it over our website here. Oh, you do? Okay. Okay. So let me take this. I'm going to move it to a new browser.
Just to be transparent, we're talking with our technical host here. She said
Right. We could say this is where we, submit a ticket. Can you see it now? Good. All right. So, and where do you want to start here? We're at the home page. So
go ahead to my ESC homepage.
Yay, you got it.
Perfect. Thanks, Lisa.
You're welcome.
And thank you, Victoria, who's our behind the scenes helper. So thanks everybody for bearing with us today. Whew, feels like a Monday morning. Okay, so what you're seeing here is what we call our My ESC homepage. So there's a student homepage, staff homepage, and a faculty homepage. They all have pretty much the same functionality. And so this is kind of where everybody goes at the beginning of the day. Like anything you need to go to, you start at this page. If you scroll down a little bit, Lisa, thanks. You're going to see a button down here called the Process Improvement Committee. And you can go ahead and click on that. And that's going to bring you to the Process Improvement Committee's website. So we've built a website that basically gives people an overview of what the committee is, what the process improvement steps are. There's links here to our reports out to the college. And then there's also information about who are our current members and how to become a member, because we're always looking for new people to join our rotation. So if I've come to this page because I want to submit a ticket, there at the very top, I'm going to click on the improvement suggestion form. And this is going to bring me, yep, you can go ahead and do that. Great. This is going to bring me to a very simple, we've tried to make the process as simple and quick as possible for people to submit a ticket. So we had to balance between like, well, we need to know what they're talking about. We need their information, but then we also wanted it to be pretty quick. So the form, we go to this form here where you put in your appropriate information. And just give me 1 second because I can't see the fields. Okay, so you start off by entering a brief description. So say, for example, I had mentioned the bookstore earlier. So say, for example, we wanted to improve the navigation of the bookstore for students. And then we wanted students to know what to do when, if they went to the bookstore and their books weren't listed, like what do they do? So you might, at the top here, you might enter a brief description like, bookstore information or student navigation of the bookstore. Lisa's doing a great job filling us in there. So some sort of a brief description that gives us an overview, gives the committee an overview of here's the topic that we're going to talk about. For the ticket that I just described earlier, maybe the person put in like, viewing all learning contracts or faculty access to all learning contracts, something like that. Then you put in a more detailed description where you're going to explain a little bit more what it is that you're actually getting at. So in this field, we might say, students need an easier way to navigate the bookstore. Students, our bookstore, our bookstore is now run by Barnes and Noble. I don't know if any of you have that joy, but we've lost a lot of our control over our bookstore that we used to have. And one of the things that is, I guess, a perk of Barnes and Noble is that students can, if you find the book elsewhere for a cheaper price, like I think it's on Amazon, but it has to be sold by Amazon, not by a third party, that you can bring that price to the bookstore and they will honor the lower price. But unfortunately, most students don't know about this. And the way that it is shown on the bookstore it's like this big banner ad. So you're like, wow, everybody should see it. But it looks like an ad. It looks like an ad, not like an information thing. So I think most people miss it. So in this section, detailed description, we might talk about the navigation, making sure students know about I forget what they call it, the ability to price check, I guess it is. And then we might also have something about directions for students when the books aren't listed for a course. So that's what we would use in this detailed description. And then the next section down would be a recommended solution. So typically most people who come to this form have an idea of like, okay, here's how I want this to be solved. So in the recommended solution, they might talk about, well, let's create, a how-to article for students in navigating the bookstore. Can we talk to the bookstore about changing the way that information is portrayed about the price check, and then could there be a little a Q&A question, FAQ question for students about what do you do when your books aren't listed? So some people in the recommended solution get really in the weeds and they write us paragraphs and paragraphs, and other people are kind of like, well, figure it out. So then on the form, we select, the person who's putting in the ticket selects an impact level. So in other words, like, is this like a totally high priority? Is this something like, yeah, I think this really should be done? Or is this more like, yeah, when we get to it, would be really great to have it. And the person who puts in the ticket gets to select what they think the priority is. Then next, they get to select the groups that this ticket affects. So certainly for this one, it affects students. It may also affect anybody else who's helping a student navigate the bookstore, which really could be any of our categories. Could be a faculty member, it could be a professional staff, could be a support staff. I know Robin does a lot of hand work with hand holding sometimes with our students to help them find their things. So it really, in this case, I think it really does affect many of us. And then the next question is, does this request affect all college locations? And that's because we are a dispersed campus. So we have locations all around the state. We also have some international locations. And more we're finding that the kinds of tickets that are put in here are college-wide. In other words, they affect all college locations. And then there's a phone number, place for your phone number, and then any additional contact information. Let's say you wanted to put this ticket in with somebody else, you could then add their name here. And that's pretty much the form. And then you click submit, and it goes through to us. Oh, and right, there's this section here so that once you've filled out the form, there's a section here that says, based on the keywords that you've entered, maybe there's already is an answer to a question you have, or there's an article or something related to one of the ideas that you've put in. So it's a nice way of sort of helping people help themselves. Like one of the things that's in here is there already is an article giving students directions to navigate the bookstore. But then you might click on that and look at it and say, okay, it does tell students how to get into the bookstore, but it doesn't do X, Y, or Z. So now my recommended solution is going to be a little more specific to say, can you please go to this article and improve it in these ways? So that is how we do an overview of the ticket. And then from here, we would move it to the ticket would pop up in all of our email inboxes. There you go. Your suggestion has been successfully submitted. And then the committee will start triaging it from there. But we thought it might be interesting to show you the triage discussion process with a ticket that that one of you might put in if you had this kind of system at your college. So if anybody can think of a topic, of something that if you were able to improve or change a process at your college, what might that be? And we would love to work that through as a demo for you.
Do you want to go in how it registers on our space before we move on?
That would be great. That'd be great.
And I think we opened up a discussion forum so that people can talk. Do they take turns or something?
Yeah. Can people talk, Victoria, or can they only write to us? Okay. So if you have an idea for a ticket that you might put in at your college, if you could type it into the discussion forum, and we would be happy to talk you through it. And while you do that, while you're thinking of that, we'll just show you on our end. So Lisa's got here, this is how the ticket shows up in our ServiceNow system, which is our IT ticketing system that we were able to become part of. We have our own section of ServiceNow. And so when a ticket comes in, what you're seeing on the screen is what we all see. So we know who put the ticket in, what the categories are, so on and so forth. And then in this system, we are able to start discussing what's going on in the ticket. We can also assign people specifically to work on the ticket. So each month, somebody on the committee is in charge of triaging all the tickets that come in. So you get a month where when a ticket comes in and pops up on your email, your job is to go in and open up the ticket right away, assign the ticket to yourself, and then also to write back to the person as soon as possible to say, thank you for submitting your ticket. The PIC will, discuss your ticket shortly, and we'll get back to you. And so we want to make sure that kind of customer service, if you will, contact goes right out to people as quick as possible. So then from there, we have weekly meetings for the Process Improvement Committee. So we alternate weeks between business meetings. We do a business meeting, and then the next week we'll do a ticket meeting, we call it, and we work on our tickets. And we do that each time, business meeting or a ticket meeting. When we do our ticket meetings, we go right into our tickets, and we start exactly what you're seeing here. We start reading them, and we talk about okay, what is the what is this person getting at? And so we have a wonderful facilitator, Philomena, who is a member of our committee. She's part of our IT team. And we start off by what we call restating the issue. So we go down to our little work notes section here. And oh, great, John put in a suggestion. Great, we're going to come back to that in just a second.
Great.
So we restate the issue. So we make sure that we are all understanding what the issue is, because sometimes there's underlying issues that we want to make sure we understand the full breadth of it. So we put all of that in our work notes, and then we talk about, okay, well, who would this ticket belong to? Like, who would this ticket go to? So for the bookstore ticket, we obviously want to loop in the bookstore. So we would add them to the ticket. And then we would also discuss as a committee each of the recommendations that this person put forward. And we would sort of, I guess you might say, we try to air out the situation before we bring it to the appropriate people. So I'm going to stop talking for a second. I want to see if Robin, Julie, Lisa, if any of you want to add something here.
So Cynthia, I don't know if we mentioned that at the moment, students can't submit a PIC ticket.
Thank you.
So I think it's probably important to know that they need a representative to voice their concerns if they have some. So I think we can look at John's request to put it in the perspective of a student has requested more.
Perfect.
And then we can answer Rebecca's question in the discussion forum as well.
Yeah. Yes. Thank you. Rebecca's question is easy. Let me just go to that. Well, Lisa, do you want to go back to the process and the form? Thank you very much. So Rebecca, in ServiceNow, there's a section where you can make customer visible notes, they call it, and anything you put in there goes to the person who submit the ticket. The work notes we tend to put in non-customer submission area, so that can be sort of the backstory conversation between members of the committee and also anybody else who we've looped into the ticket. So we have the ability to both reach out to that person and keep it as part of the whole ticket, and we also have the ability to have a private conversation. No, thanks. It's a great question. So John, go ahead.
I just wanted to add to that, when you submit a ticket or whoever submits a ticket, the committee, any chance or any change of your ticket, we are communicating with you all the time. And there are times that we've had tickets where we have added the work notes into the notes to the person that submitted the ticket so that they know these are the steps that we are making or taking in order to change the process that you would like us to change. So I just want to make that note that we are constantly communicating with the individual that has submitted the ticket.
And we also work to give an anonymous option.
Yes.
There's some people you can come to a committee member and talk about it, and the committee member will anonymously work it through for you.
Yes.
Yeah, great points. A lot of times as department chair, I'm putting in things on behalf of the faculty in my department or on behalf of faculty at large, et cetera. So, and also there are tickets that we can't fulfill. Like we can all say like, this is a great idea, but we don't have the bandwidth to do it right now. We don't have the funds to do it, et cetera. But let's go to John's ticket here. So John said, could we request more vegetarian food choices in the dining hall? That's a great one. So if he were filling out this form, he would put in a brief description, and then he would put in the detailed description, and maybe suggesting some different ways of where we could add in more vegetarian food choices to snacks, to lunches, to dinners, breakfasts, etc. Yep. Great, Lisa.
John's note is also interesting. I always find it interesting to say, is a ticket submitter thinking about what would make their job easier, what would improve the experience of the student, or something that's more system-wide? There's different approaches to tickets, which I just find very fascinating.
Yeah, that's great too. And John added a note, Lisa, too, about wanting better signage. Signage about vegetarian choices, John?
Mhm. Yeah, or just signage in general.
Right. Can we find the food?
Right.
Great. Yeah, perfect, John. Thinking I was a student. Yeah, that's great. That's great. And we as Robin said, we do that too. We submit things on behalf of students, as Robin explained in her case study, or things that we think would help improve students, like the case study that I showed, or even Julie's. We're all here working on behalf of students in our various ways. And so really that's at the heart of this whole system. As Julie said, sometimes it feels like I'm putting in a ticket because it'll make my job easier. But if it makes my job easier, it makes it easier for me to serve the student that I'm working with. So great. So Lisa's got all our information here. She's picking an impact. And let's see, this is probably everybody uses
Everybody.
Yeah.
I would even put other. It's everybody.
Because anybody could go. I mean, primarily students go, but I think a lot of times everybody else goes to, to the lunch area, etc. So we would select that. And also, I guess I should say too, like the form is the beginning of a conversation. So we try not to get people to feel too pressured about how do I fill out the form. It's just the beginning of a conversation. It gets the conversation started. Great. Nice job.
This would be an interesting one. Are there any food services in the Empire campuses that anybody knows of?
We don't have any, which is really what makes this ticket so interesting for us, because as a dispersed campus, we don't have dining halls. But
Snacks,
wish we
water,
did,
anything?
but we
I
don't.
know.
Wish we did.
So we have
We're 100%.
conferences and meetings where we have a set of
Yeah.
foods available.
Yep.
So that's another area too.
Yep.
You have meeting food, Lisa?
Not anymore, but
We
No,
used
not
to.
anymore. We used to.
we have virtual food being selected. So,
Okay.
Bring your own
next,
Dunkin' Donuts. Okay, great. So then any suggestions related to the keywords would come up here. Then we click submit. And it says, great, thank you for submitting it. So then, as we said, an email would pop up to the committee, and whoever's in charge that month of triaging would go into the ticket and reply with a thank you. And then when we get to our ticket meeting, or I should say, sometimes the person who's in charge for the month of triaging also can go in and start getting people talking about it. It depends. Some of us have different styles, but sometimes it's really useful if whoever's running the tickets for the month can go in ahead of time and start getting the appropriate people on board to discuss this situation. So the first thing would be the thank you note that goes back to John for his suggestion. And then the committee would start discussing it. They would restate the issue in the work note section. And then the committee would start discussing who needs to be looped in on this. And this is, I have to say, I think it's one of the most important and innovative parts of this whole thing is that group discussion where you've got 15 people from around the college, all different locations, all different jobs, coming at a problem or an idea from all different situations. It's really an exciting moment for people to get together and brainstorm.
And did we
So
say
if
we
we
like
got
each
this
other?
ticket, yeah, go ahead, Julie.
And did we say we like each other?
Yeah. Yeah, we do actually. We do like each other. So if we got this ticket, how do you think we would start on it?
Procurement or facilities.
Facilities. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, if we had a dining hall, I think we would probably go to the director of the dining hall first. So, yep, try to
Yep.
incorporate them.
Yep.
Mhm.
So we would loop them into the ticket.
Yep.
Yep.
And,
And
and then if John made solutions like, more vegetarian dishes and gave us specifics on what he wants, we would also put in those notes to whoever the director of, the dining hall was, well, these are some suggestions that were brought forward that they would like to see in the dining hall if we can make this happen, and then of course incorporate the signage as well, because, I'm a very picky eater. I need signage. I need to know what is it if I don't know what it is.
so I think that probably the important thing is that when we first get a ticket, we've kind of standardized our response to restate the problem. So we have an initial email that goes back to the client. So thank you for submitting and summarize the problem. We understand you're requesting a change in our food service to offer more vegetarian dishes. So that's the initial response. And then we approach how to solve the problem.
And down here is where I did that, and this went out to John Z.
Perfect.
So you won't get it, John, but it went out to you. And then this is where we start with. This is not visible to the customer. We say customer, but it's just our work notes in the meeting.
Great. So we restate the problem. We put in our discussion. We might talk about what kinds of vegetarian choices are already in the food hall from our experiences, what kinds of things we might want to see get added, what signage is there, what signage could we recommend. So we try to flesh out the problem, and then we would loop the dining hall director in, perhaps facilities as well. And then from there, it depends on how the ticket is going to get handled. So like we said, we don't make the decision about whether or not this recommendation is brought on board, but we flesh it out and we pull people into it. So I'm just looking at our time, guys. We've got about 20 minutes left, and I know Lisa's got a couple of final slides, and then we'll leave a little time for any Q&A. Is there anything else that we wanted to add about our process here, or any questions that anybody has about what we've discussed?
So I think you would just finish the loop, Cindy, by saying that once we had proposed a solution and we're ready to implement it, or it is implemented, then we would go back and we would close the ticket and communicate once again to our customer. And then they would be sent the survey so we could really close it with a
Perfect.
final thought. Yeah.
Yep. Perfect. Yep. Thank you so much.
And then the committee gets excited.
Right. All right. And Lisa, you're putting our PowerPoint back up?
Yes, you should be
Hey,
seeing
you
now.
got it.
Okay. I didn't get this now.
Nice.
Practice.
All
So I'm
right.
Lisa Johnson. I currently work for the administration operations side of the business. I used to be on faculty and et cetera. So, and and been with the college in 27 years or so. So the process and the committee and the growth of this has been amazing to watch. And has presented a great opportunity for the college. And as we work through tickets, as we reflect as a committee, and we ask ourselves with the ticket process, we step back and say, well, are there some lessons learned here? And if so, are there things that we as a committee can do to help, enhance the services that we're providing? One of the things that's interesting is that during our meeting discussion, it is so easy to get into the fix-it mode. Well, this could be, or that could be, where we really are needing to work through the tickets, identify what the initial issue is, as we've said before, and then bring in consultants or refer it to the different offices and the people who are responsible in that area or would be to engage them and connect it with the client submitting the ticket. Also, one of the interesting lessons learned is we processed through an incident, and then all of a sudden somebody said, isn't there a policy regarding that? So we had to step back and say, oh, some of these issues might actually have policies, and the policies might need to be, one, communicated out or maybe revisited, et cetera. So then we would reach out to the person who helps to draft policies for the college, and then they also would reach out to the appropriate office. Again, we're acting as a liaison to pull these resources together. Another item is, as we read through these issues, is there a risk factor for the institution? If there is, we need to be sure to get this to our office that deals with the risk factors there. And does the issue directly or indirectly impact students? Many of some of our tickets don't. They are dealing with process, but they deal with processes that, if worked through, will indirectly impact our students, help us serve the students better, as we've said before. We also find some of the issues are really have been dealt with, and there might have been implementation of a process, but the communication hasn't flowed through the system so people are aware of it. So it provides an opportunity then to communicate the relevant information out and to get with the people who are, oversee the particular issue and let them know these types of comments are coming in. So it might allow them to look at some of the communication flow going on there. And we find also a lot of the tickets coming in might be technology related. We do so much online and, given COVID, communications, things of this nature. And some of the items like the case study that Cindy went through with getting the learning contracts made available to all faculty that are mentoring students, that goes to the integrated technology division. In fact, when we were working through that ticket, we reached out to the person that had helped make that available before our new primary system here. And he said, yes, that can be done. And so what happened was he then presented it to our IT people, and it now has it on their list of priorities. It's in a list of projects that need to be done, and they're in the process of putting priorities on where that would be. And so we've been able to communicate with that. But again, what's the demands? What's the budget constraints, et cetera? Because an issue might come in that's really good, but because of budget restraints or resources, it can't be done right now. And that's an okay answer to get out to our people. They might not like it right now, but at least they know it's on the radar. So as I said, each ticket provides us an opportunity to step back and say, what's going on here? And some of the goals that are generated out of there as well, easy for me to say, is we're looking again to formally align the ticket activities to the institution's strategies. The institution strategies, help inform our budget, our priorities, et cetera. And as these come through, can it, meld into that, or does it need to be put on hold for a little while? It depends on the significance of the ticket. Is that a fair way of saying that, folks?
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And also, our college has done a process flow of our student life cycle from the first time they go on the web to look at our college all the way through becoming an alum. And we're going through and developing categories that fit into the student cycle elements there. What stage is it at, et cetera. I'm not on that committee, so I hope I'm capturing that accurately. The other thing is we look at our membership. And as we have issues coming in, do we have the right people on the committee to help us review that? We have one person on the committee right now that is our administrative liaison. We have added an HR person to help. We want to make sure that we have a diversified membership. To have part-time employees, the DEA initiatives, to represent the racialized faculty caucus. Also our students, they won't be members, but we liaison with them to let them know what issues are being dealt with that impact them, and also new employee residencies. So how are we pulling in resources that will enhance the discussion of the issues coming in? And that's going to always be something that is our committee is committed to making sure we have the right representatives without constraining people from wanting to get onto the committee. So it's in addition to, how are we doing on that? Also the marketing and the communications. We want to make sure that people in our college know that this is here. It is one way of putting their voice out there and having an impact. And with our communications, as it was noted before, we have quarterly reports. We report back to the climate committee, who is now a standing committee on Senate. So there's a communication flow there as well. And then assessing our survey results. It was quite interesting. We had one that came in that was dissatisfied with the resolution that came up, and that's very okay. And it's very okay for the committee to step back. And we said, let's look at this again. Did we get the issue correct? Were we addressing it correctly? And we decided, we might not have interpreted it correctly. So we're in the process now of revisiting that. We will look at those to improve ourselves as well. We may actually need to get back to the employee and say, this is how we were answering it. Was that really your question? So these are good challenges, but we need to review how we are assessing the surveys in ways that we can take that information and improve. So those are the learning lessons learned and goals for the future. Do my colleagues have anything else to add to this?
No, you did a great job, Lisa.
No, great.
If not, I'm going to turn it over to Robin.
These are our process improvement committee members. There are 15 of us. These members are actually across, like Empire, across the whole state. Our main campus is in Saratoga Springs. But we spread out from Cheektowaga all the way to Brooklyn, to Hartsdale. And it's very, very important to have locations and the different types of members. And what I mean by different types of members, I mean we have full-time faculty, part-time faculty, professional employees, and support staff on this committee so that we can do a full look at what these tickets are and really get down to the nitty-gritty and try to complete the ticket on the individual and what they've submitted. And then our administrator, as Lisa put, is our wonderful registrar for the college, Pamela Enzer. She's a great leader. We also have a policy person on here as well, Sadie Ross, who helps us say, I think we have a policy for that. Let's take a look at that. So very important for all of us throughout the whole New York State to be on this committee, just to put in, our 2 cents, or we run a little differently than Saratoga, or depending on what region that you're in. And not only that, the different perspectives between faculty, professional employees, and support staff. So it is actually a great committee. We get along so great, and we really do go through these tickets, I want to say, with a fine-tooth comb, because we want to make sure that we get it right.
So, Rob, I'll just add our most recent addition is Michelle Payne. So many of we're in a continuous improvement cycle. So
yes,
we talked about the fact that so many of our tickets had an IT effect, and they're already pretty busy with other projects. So we kept bumping into priorities, and so we invited them in so that they could weigh in on priorities and how to fix things. So we're always looking at how to do better. Anyways, thanks, Robin.
Next slide, Lisa.
Great. So from here, we just open things up to questions. If anybody has any questions to add into the discussion forum, we'd be happy to take some time to talk about things. See, we got about 9 minutes left, so plenty of time.
Can we ask questions too?
Sure. Go for it.
The question I have is this evolved out of our climate survey, and has added value to the college, to the students, to the processes, etc. And my question is, as you were listening to this, does anyone have something like this already? If not, is it something that might be of intriguing to at least have a discussion on?
Start.
Do you see the comment in there?
Yeah. What do you guys think?
I think you start with a sponsor.
So somebody at the institution who's willing to say, I think this is a project we should work through. We started, so we had the climate committee, but then we also started with somebody in Office of Academic Affairs, John Lawless, who at that point was a vice president. And so we had somebody kind of high in administration who said this is a priority, and he was able to loop us into Stephanie Thomas, who is a business process mapping person. So she is able to work through all sorts of systems in the college, and she kind of painstakingly took us through mapping out what this whole process would be. How does a ticket go in? Then what happens? Then what happens? And so on and so forth. So I think, as Julie said, it's trying to find somebody who's willing to kind of take this on and help you through it. And then whatever, I'm not sure if other colleges have a Stephanie Thomas business process mapping, but maybe you have a project manager who could do something like that. But I think also we had the momentum of our climate committee behind it as well. And we had a diverse, there was the group of us who mapped this out with Stephanie. I'm going to say there was maybe 7 or 8 people from around the college, Robin.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah. So we had buy-in from the beginning, because we had a diverse group of people who could report back to their folks to say, hey, I'm on this committee and I'm working on this thing, and I think it's going to be really cool. So finding a leader for it, and then I think also building buy-in for it. And then I think the other thing, and you guys correct me if I'm wrong, but is building the trust. Like over our first year, and even our second year, really, is building the trust of the people who put in tickets to say, we're really doing our best here, and we're really trying to implement things that people bring forward, because I think it's really important that people don't view us as as not being serious about it.
So tone is everything. Process improvement is not the complaint center. Process improvement is we're in this together to make the college better. And I would just say, I was new to the college, and it's been, in addition to putting our time in, what's rewarding is the more experienced people on the committee. They've helped us to create presentations. They've written articles. So if you're not a published person, they're willing to help you do that. So there's some personal growth involved that is really a perk of being on the committee.
I think too, because I'm with the climate committee as well. When we were chatting about this, I personally wanted to jump on this because anything to make the student's life or the student's experience so much better at Empire State College. I mean, that's our goal. And, of course, to make our work easier. And it's definitely, you learn as you go. There are so many things from the beginning that we've changed because, let's do it this way. Oh, this is working out so much better. It's a learning process. And the more people that you can get on a committee like this that have different views, the stronger the committee, and then the stronger that you're going to make solutions, or not so much solutions, but we're facilitating. Okay, let's go to the administrators for this. Let's go. I mean, and it is all about trust. It is very much about trust. So sorry, Lisa, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No. Sorry about that. I think the other thing too is the buy-in. That is such a critical element if you're at all entertaining the idea. We were in a very unique situation at this time. With the climate committee was developed to help respond to some of the items identified in the survey. And we had the advantage of the president, the interim or officer in charge, as we were in between presidents, was a strong advocate. In fact, she was on the climate survey committee and helped write the report. So there was that type of support. There was support from so many people to see the survey report come out the way it was. So we were primed for that. We were primed to have upper administrators who really saw the value in it. So I think if it's something that people are interested in exploring, as Cindy said before, try to find some stakeholders that might help shepherd this. Great question.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, and don't hesitate to contact. You want me to volunteer you? Contact us if you want more information, because this has been a process.
Yeah, I just put my email in the chat,
Right.
and I can also link you to the article. There's an article that a couple of us wrote about how we started this whole thing that was published. And I don't have the link to the publication handy here, but be happy to share the link with anybody who would like it. All right. Any other questions? We got 2 minutes. Perfect, Ria. I will do that. Just copied your address down.
Let's see if I can find it as we're.
And if anybody wants the presentation, we're happy to ship that off to you also.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
I'm not going to find it.
I'm looking.
I want to get back to the home page there.
Friends, I have another important meeting at 10. I'm going to leave it in the capable hands of my colleagues, if you don't mind. I have to get out of this environment and go to a different environment.
That sounds good.
Is that okay? Sorry, I gotta go.
Yeah. Thanks, Julie.
Bye-bye, guys.
Bye. Okay, here, I found the link. I'll just
Oh,
put it
good,
in the chat. Okay, that should work. If not, let me know. I'd be happy to supply it to anybody.
That was the one that was
Great,
published, is
Shannon.
that correct?
Yeah, this is the one. Okay. All
Anyone
right.
else is interested, please email and we can get the link to you.
Indeed. All right. Well, thank you everybody for joining us this morning. I really appreciate you coming to our morning session. I hope it gave you some ideas. And again, we're all here and happy to talk with anybody individually or with any groups of other campuses about how to get this started. So, any final words?
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. And everybody have a great day.
Sounds good. Thanks, everybody.
Thank
Bye.
you.
All right. Thanks.
Thank you.